Hey everyone!
Hey, how's it going? Welcome to the floor.
Yeah, the floor is ours. Today we're going to be talking about something a little unexpected, books.
Yeah, we've got lots of books here that we want to talk with you guys about.
Why? Why books?
Well, it's interesting because obviously on The Cinemologist we tend to dominate the conversation with discussions about movies. But really, like, we love reading.
Yes.
It's, yeah, I don't know, there's just something about the printed word and being able to just read a book. It's like immersing yourself in concrete thinking. And it's just another really amazing art form that we absolutely love. And it's really, really important to read, and read widely. Yeah, we brought some of our favorite books around to talk about here today. Go first. You brought a bag of books from your place.
Yeah, let's see what I got in here. Let's start with this one. So,
also, spoiler alert, a lot of these are probably going to be science fiction.
Yes. If you've ever read Poul Anderson, actually it's Poul Anderson and Gordon R. Dixon's The Sound and the Furry, the complete Hoka stories. And no, this is not anything to do with furries or that lot. No, it's just a clever pun. But the Hokas are basically, these are stories, short stories about a race of aliens who look exactly like teddy bears. They're like Ewoks, except not stupid. And they're teddy bears. They have, like, you know, the teddy bear face, and they have like cute little paws and stuff, but they are very, very susceptible to interpreting fiction as reality, and so they kind of adopt Earth culture very readily. There's stories I've read so far, one where they part of their home planet becomes a Wild West town. All these are comedic stories. They have a punchline and a setup and payoff, and they're hysterical. The one I just read, Don John, which is like a Don Juan kind of thing. Check them out, Hoka stories.
Ubik, and I read it in just a couple of days whenever I had days off or just a few spare hours away from the film shoot that I was working on. Yeah, I just voraciously tore into it and finished it while I was on the plane back home after the shoot was wrapped, and I just couldn't get enough. So we found this one great bookstore. This is edited by Gardner Dozois. I think that's how you pronounce that. He's worked a lot with George R. R. Martin and people like that. Really good anthologist and author in his own right. But he did modern classic short novels of science fiction. And this was great because, novella-length stories by a ton of really big authors. So Jack Vance was one of them. His story in here, The Miracle Workers, is fantastic. Poul Anderson had a story in here called The Longest Voyage, which is like a science fiction version of Treasure Island a little bit, which is great. And tons of other people. Brian W. Aldiss, Samuel R. Delaney, Lucius Shepard, Joanna Russ. There's tons and tons of great authors in here. And this is just the perfect primer. So from there I was like, okay, I know I love Poul Anderson. So I got the best of Poul Anderson, which was more short stories and novellas by him. My Object All Sublime, which is, I think that's it. Is that? Yeah, My Object All Sublime, which is one of the best stories about time travel I've ever read. It's just a very interesting take on it, where time travel is actually a form of capital punishment and not really a type of exploration. So that one's great. And then this guy...
That guy.
Harlan Ellison's Watching. We love Harlan Ellison over here at the Cinemologist.
Yeah,
he's
we do.
Quite a hero of ours. And Harlan Ellison's Watching was his film and television in general rambling article that ran, and I think it was fantasy and science fiction, of which he is still the film editor. I just saw a copy at Barnes & Noble the other day.
Really?
Yeah, he's still the film editor. I don't know if he contributes columns regularly, but he still edits the column.
That's great.
And this is just a bunch of his ramblings. You hear him talk about, why Ken Russell is one of the greatest filmmakers of all time, among many other unbelievable things. Excerpts from screenplays he wrote that were never filmed or never completed, and tons of very unusual, unpopular opinions, which are nonetheless very well backed up. A huge saga on the making and unmaking of Dune in here as well. So tons of great stuff in Harlan Ellison's Watching.
Previously property of the Milwaukee Public Library.
Yeah, I got my hardcover copy used, and it's from the Milwaukee Public Library. Yeah.
Perhaps Mike Stoklasa or Jay Bauman checked that out.
I feel like Jay would have.
Yeah. My current favorite science fiction series, which is C.S. Lewis's Space Trilogy. These I read very quickly, and they are probably some of my favorite books I've ever read. Just in how they're beautifully written. The concepts are wonderful in there, especially Perilandra. This idea of sort of the watery Eden.
Imaginative.
This one's my personal favorite out of the lot. That hideous strength, because it's a slow build up, but it culminates in an absolutely crazy finale. It makes you think differently about a lot of stuff that not many science fiction books address or even kind of take a look at. But A.E. Van Vogt's Voyage of the Space Beagle. This is just pure science fiction gold. I mean, this is like, you know, the golden age of science fiction right here. A.E. Van Vogt, really, like, this is like the predecessor to everything from Star Trek to Alien. Just a lot of fun, very interesting, and just, you know, it shows how good science fiction can still be fun, entertaining, and adventurous, and exciting. But at the same time, there's a lot of really interesting concepts and dilemmas raised. And so yeah, it's the best short stories of J.G. Ballard. If you've never read anything by J.G. Ballard, he is the man behind the novel Crash, the one adapted by David Cronenberg, and
Empire of the Sun.
Empire of the Sun as well. He wrote that. This is full of a lot of really fantastic like stories. A lot of them dystopias. A lot of them some of the most interesting dystopias I've ever read. The Cloud Sculptors of Coral D, Bilenium, that one's really good. The Drowned Giant is just kind of bizarre and an interesting concept. And then they get really crazy by the end, like the Atrocity Exhibition, the assassination of John Fitzgerald Kennedy, considered as a downhill motor race. I'll let you discover the other things.
This is Penguin Books edition of Rashomon and 17 Other Stories by Ryusuke Akutagawa. And it's interesting because this has the story Rashomon, but the movie Rashomon is actually based off of another short story by Ryusuke Akutagawa called In a Grove, which incorporates some elements of Rashomon as well. But those are the only two stories I've read out of here so far. I'm kind of working my way through them, but these are excellent. And if you're a fan of the movie, check these out because it gives you a much greater appreciation for the film as an excellent adaptation of the material. And so I've been going through this one, which was a gift from Y2K. It's Young Orson, which is all about Orson Welles' life before he made Citizen Kane and up to and including the production of the film. So about halfway through the book, he's in grade school, I think. And it's crazy. And going through this, I'm still plugging along through this as I go through some fiction stuff as well. So much interesting stuff in here. Here we have a short story collection by somebody who's become, because of this collection, one of my favorite authors of SF. Bob Sheckley, who wrote Citizen Space, this short story collection. He also wrote the novel The Game of X, which is the basis for the movie Condor Man. And he's, done a lot of other interesting stuff along those lines. He also wrote my favorite episode of the radio series X-1 called Bad Medicine, which is very good and very funny. But yeah, these are just crazy good. There's one about this guy who lives in a world where everyone's under surveillance, and this guy discovers, he just keeps getting assigned the worst spies in the world to trail him. It's like it's really obvious and he can always tell that he's being spied on, because I guess the government doesn't really care about him that much. So he just gets really fed up that the government doesn't take interest in his life, and so he goes off into space. But then, like, no matter where he goes, all of a sudden a group of people claiming to be travelers whose rocket ships broke down but are really just more inept spies begin following him, and eventually he, like, creates his own planet colony completely populated by the people who are supposed to be spying on him, and it has a lovely ending.
This is a book of stories by Bruno Schulz. If you've never heard of Bruno Schulz, you should really check him out, especially if you're interested in, like I said, this kind of magic realism or surrealism. His text is a lot like how like a kid sees the world, is in that things happen, but the catalysts for these things happening and why they happen, or their material are not actually what they really are. There's reality. Reality is kind of constructed in a different way in the mind of the narrator, and it's kind of like the understanding of how the physical world works is different. I definitely recommend that Street of Crocodiles and Other Stories. One of the Street of Crocodiles story was made into a film by the Quay brothers. Quite good film. And then there is the man, the legend, Jorge Luis Borges. And this is the Collected Fictions, which is just such a treasure. Just if you like, just once you start reading them, you just get hooked. Just anything from the Circular Ruins to the Book of Sand and the famous one, the Library of Babel. There Are More Things, which is like a Lovecraft homage, and Blue Tigers, and just some really, really interesting stuff in there. But like, you just cannot go wrong. Like, this stuff, it transcends a lot of other writing and a lot of fiction and whatnot. But along the same lines as Borges is actually a friend of his, Adolfo Casares, who wrote The Invention of Morel.
Read it, please. It's so good.
Just read it. How long is it? 103 pages. Read it
in an afternoon.
Read it.
Yeah.
Just read it. Like,
we want you to read
all,
it.
All I'm gonna say is, mysterious island, weird and ghostly inhabitants, and a man obsessed with a woman. Yeah.
Please read it.
Yeah.
And if you don't, please read it.
Salvador Dali's only novel, Hidden Faces. This is, I think it's an underrated masterpiece of the 20th century. I read it over a long period of time, but it was so, it's just chock full of his obsessions, his way of seeing the world, but it's still coherent. And it has a really amazing operatic story that takes place throughout World War II. Even while World War II was going on, he wrote this in 2 weeks at a resort in New Hampshire. While World War II was going on, but he actually predicts sort of how World War II ends, and it's very interesting. But it's just this Wagnerian story with like just deception and demonic possession and like the craziness of Dali's own like little minutia that he obsesses over in some details, which it's fantastic. So seek it out if you can find a copy.
Let's see.
Coming up next, right now.
Yeah. Well, rather. This has become one of my favorite books, and I would like to read more by this author. But Virginia Woolf, A Room of One's Own. This is a great book about women authors through the years, how they've been repressed in some ways and how they've repressed themselves in a lot of ways. But on top of that, in addition to dealing with that issue, it also talks about creative expression in general and about how authors really need to, find their own headspace and find a room of their own from which they can have their creative outpouring. So it's about a ton of different things. So really fascinating stuff, and I really love this book, and I would like to read more by Virginia Woolf, but I haven't yet. And that's that. First, we saw the movie for this first, and it was a game changer.
That was that was fun.
Probably my favorite horror movie of all time, and the book is equally as good. The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson, which became Robert Wise's The Haunting. The book is great, and obviously a lot of people are familiar with Shirley Jackson from The Lottery, that short story. She's done some other very good short work as well. But this novel right here is terrifying. And it also adds to your appreciation of the film and what a great adaptation it is of that material. That opening paragraph is just one of the most bone-chilling intros to any novel I've ever read. It's a winner.
I want to read more by her. Got some more Harlan. Right here is the Essential Ellison 50-year retrospective, which is a pretty impressive tome in itself. I mean, it's got so much. All the classics, like I Have No Mouth and I'm a Screamed, The Whimper of Whipped Dogs, which that's a story you read once in a lifetime and never forget. And then you've got the True Love, Groping for the Holy Grail, or the Grail, stories like that. The Function of Dream Sleep, The Man Who Rode Christopher Columbus Ashore, and I think there is one teleplay in here as well. But this is great for just picking at and getting some good Harlan Ellison goodness.
If I may jump on the Harlan train once more.
Oh yeah, please.
I just picked this up and I'm very excited about it. I got Dangerous Visions, which was the groundbreaking anthology that Harlan Ellison wrote, and this reproduces the original artwork that was inside and accompanied each story. Also, equally as interesting as the stories are the introductions by Harlan Ellison, or sometimes about Harlan Ellison if he wrote the story in question. This book has like 4 forewords as well, or introductions. It's great. But seriously, if you haven't read Fahrenheit 451, read it yesterday. It's short. The print's big. This particular edition's 100 like 70 some pages. The print's huge, so it's even really shorter than that appears to be. And the prose is so fantastic. The story is timeless. It actually made me cry twice within the first 50 pages.
I thought I'd also throw in some graphic novels, or one anyway, that I think stands alongside these other books pretty well. And that's The Incal by Jodorowsky and Mobius. This is pretty much like one of the greatest graphic novels ever. I think it's one of the greatest ones I've ever read. And not only is it full of astounding artwork, just incomparable sort of imagery and whatnot, but the story is great. The characters are really interesting. A lot of it is stuff that was reused from the unmade Dune film.
So when I was very little, I think when I was 4 years old, my mother did something which not a lot of moms have done, I think, with a 4-year-old, but she read the entirety, the unabridged Robinson Crusoe by Daniel Defoe. And here's the edition of it, the Barnes Noble edition that I have of 5 of his novels.
Sweet. Well, 2 years ago I read subsequently 2 vast books that are sort of titans of their own respective genres. The first one was Frank Herbert's Dune, and I read through it and like slowly but sort of taking it all in, soaking it up, and it's really nice. Barnes and Noble hardbound leather hardcover edition, whatever. But I mean, this is just read Dune. Just dedicate a month or so to reading it. The other book I read after that, which I had promised myself to read, was Moby Dick. And I gotta say, it took me a little while to kind of get right into it, but once I did, I was really stunned by just the, not just the writing of it, but also the way that Melville takes the situations that happen and kind of veers off into postulation and philosophizing and all that stuff. Sharks become dogs in this book, and they're like
H.P. Lovecraft's stories. This has, I think, just about everything that he wrote fiction-wise. He has the complete fiction, so not his letters or other various assorted non-fiction pieces or poetry, but yeah, this has all the classics, so like Call of Cthulhu, At the Mountains of Madness, The Dunwich Horror, Color Out of Space, and more, as it doesn't say on the back.
Yeah. There's some great let's see, there's some that are really like The Shunned House, The Picture in the House. Anything with a house, really.
Pretty much. Or without a house. It's all good.
Dreams in the Witch House. No. Old Bugs. Actually, I haven't read Old Bugs. Dagon's classic.
And that's a very short one, too, so it's...
Fly.
Yeah. Quite chilling and very classic.
The Hound. Oh, The Hound. You have to read The Hound on a cold October night with the sun setting behind like gnarled... knobby tree branches. Oh, read The Hound on a night like that. Yeah, it's quite chilling. And then definitely At the Mountains of Madness is one of my favorite books of all time. The Rats and the Walls, and the music of Eric Zahn. That is such an atmospheric, memorable story. So yeah.
Color Out of Space is probably my favorite in this collection, although you really can't go far wrong with any of these. But
it's a good one.
Yeah, a story about alien colors that the human eye has not yet perceived. What a concept, and what execution as well.
Speaking of favorite books of all time, maybe one of my favorites, at least science fiction books of all time, is Arthur C. Clarke's Rendezvous with Rama. This book is just wonder in print form. It never ceases to amaze, and yet it leaves you wanting just enough at its end.
It's a page turner. So obviously we're huge James Bond fans, and it goes without saying that you should read the Ian Fleming books. This right here is the Penguin edition of Casino Royale. These editions are out of print now, and it drives me nuts. These are like the Ian Fleming Centennial editions. And they had such great covers. The print quality is amazing. They smell fantastic. And yeah, I just love these editions, and they're out of print now. So I'm scouring used bookstores looking for copies of these just to get the rest.
I have that one too. So fortunately, I got that. Yeah, that one is just fantastic. They're just good reading.
Yeah, it's a great book, and it again deepens your appreciation for the films, going back to the original source material as well. Again, crossing the realm into TV and movies, because why not? This is Reflections, an oral history of Twin Peaks by Brad Dukes. This is really cool, actually. This is just interviews with most of the people involved with this. David Lynch was not included in the people, but I think Mark Frost is in here, and Angela Badalamenti, so many people, and pretty much all the principal cast. It's just a great thing, and there's really no narration. Brad Dukes, who assembled this material and conducted the interviews, never comments on these things or shapes the story at all. He just lets the people speak for themselves. So it's very much an oral history of the show, which is very interesting and very informative. So if you're a fan of Twin Peaks, this is pretty much a must-own book. Get this one, and then get Lynch on Lynch to hear David Lynch's side of the story. I'm a huge fan of old-time radio series, and one of my favorites, actually my absolute favorite, is Carlton E. Morse's I Love a Mystery. And so when I found out there was a graphic novel version of The Fear That Crept Like a Cat, which is one of the lost stories that, because the show was on the air for a long period of time, it's one of the stories that didn't make it, so there isn't actually an audio version of that radio story. So to get it dramatized in some form is great for fans, and the artwork's excellent. It actually has an autograph from Don Sherwood, who did the art and adapted this. Yeah.
Like, you didn't know that was going to be in there?
No, I just got a copy of it off of, I think, eBay for $4, and it was autographed and everything, which is great.
To Martin... Who?
Graham?
My friend in Nostalgia.
Huh. Why'd you get rid of the book?
Did he die?
Oh, that's possible.
Did you die, Martin? I'm sorry.
Where are you, Martin?
Oh, it's in good hands now.
Yeah, I love this thing, so thank you very much for selling it. Or not thank you for dying. I'm very sorry if you died and this was sold in an estate sale. And I'm going to stop talking. We've got the first 3 volumes of Hayao Miyazaki's Nausicaa. Oh, these are so good. I love the movie, and I love these even more. Because the character of Nausicaa in the film is good, but I don't know, I just really prefer the way she's done in this, as well as the main villainous character. What's her name?
Kushana. Yeah,
Kushana. I love the characters, and they just have a little bit more time to breathe and a little bit more complexity in these. You can see some of the incredible, incredible artwork in there. Fold-out poster of Nausicaa. which is great. And then on the back there's a map, which is great. I got these, or at least one of these, I think, at Atomic Comics in Philly.
Atomic City.
Atomic City.
Yeah.
Although it's
On
much
South
more fun.
Street. Atomic Comics.
Atomic Comics, but
it's on South Street.
yeah.
Check it out.
Books. Look at all these books.
Books.
Everywhere. So many books.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, we didn't even get to talk about them. Oh, look, Man in the High Castle.
Oh.
Oh, I got Jules Verne over here. We got Al Jolson. We got
Al Jolson.
Yeah, we got Jules Verne, which we didn't talk so much. So we're definitely gonna have to come back to books, I think, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
books are amazing to read, and let us know in the comments, like, what do you guys like to read? What genres? What authors? What should we check out? Have you read any of this stuff? What did you think about it? Yeah, just let us know. Flood us with comments, because we really want to hear what books you guys are into as well. So yeah, this was great. Just being able to talk about something a little different. On the Cinemologist today. So yeah, we hope you enjoyed it, guys. And until next time.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Joel. So we'll catch you later.